Going live.
Oh man.
Welcome everybody to another week of 30 Minutes Alone.
Episode 2.
Episode 2. Got the kids to bed, so
Yes.
finally
Busy
got
day.
yeah, to say the least. So now we get our 30 Minutes Alone
Yeah.
to talk about
What we've listened to over the last week.
right. So we did another podcast drama series, and it was Dungeon Masters. It's a comedy.
I'd say it would be a thriller, I guess.
Yeah.
Not
I mean, it
as
had its
scary as the
moments.
last one. If you watched our first episode, it wouldn't be
Right.
that intense.
Yeah, that was a more intense story. This one's more of a
This is my pace. This is the
Yeah.
suspense / like mystery, piecing it together in your head type story versus
and it's Dungeons and Dragons, so it's
Yeah.
like right up the kind of stuff you
Yes.
like.
I'm in my dragon era, and so I wanted something a little more up my alley, and he found this one. And it's a short series. It's only, 8 episodes?
I thought it
Nine?
was 6.
Is it? Oh, see? I'll have to go back. I thought it was 8.
I think it was 6, and then
Oh,
they had
the extra two extras.
like
So, yeah.
lost episodes or something like
So
that. We
6.
haven't listened to those
Yeah.
yet, but
So 6 official episodes.
right for like the whole story. But it's another Q Code. We're not sponsored by Q Code
No,
or anything.
hashtag not sponsored.
But I swear they put out some of the best drama podcasts because of the actors and actresses they pick. So this one had John Hamm playing William Deere, which is the main character,
Mhm.
and then they had Will
Wheaton.
Wheaton played the Dungeon Master. So basically, your narrator, like
Mhm.
your Dungeon Master, when you play, I guess Dungeon. I didn't know anything about Dungeons and Dragons before I kind of listened to this, so. But
So
like
you-
he's your guide through the story, so it's kind of like
But it's also John Hamm's character, William Deere. He narrates it too. So it's like if you're reading a book and you see, like, I look into my bag and find my briefcase.
Right.
And so he's like
he sets the tone
Yeah.
for what, like, sets the scene. Will Wheaton sets the scene as a dungeon master, saying like, talking about your character as William Deere, and like he uses different gadgets as a detective, and he's like, oh, you're gonna use your, I don't know what was
20-sided dice, and he rolls it, and you
yeah,
hear
but
the
he
sound.
picks like one of the
Yeah.
objects like one of his tools he uses as a
Uh-huh.
detective, and then if you have to roll the dice to see how effective it is.
Mhm.
So it's like the mix of Dungeons and Dragons, the board game, into like a detective trying to solve a case.
Which is also related to Dungeons and Dragons.
Right. And like I said, I had no idea. Like, I don't know anything about Dungeons and Dragons, but I just figured it. Like, I know a little bit from like friends that played it, but it's like a giant board game, but you make up the rules, and basically you make up the quest and stuff like that. And it's a lot of imagination. So it kind of opened my eyes to like, hey, that wouldn't be, wouldn't mind trying.
Trying to play it. Yeah.
But also at the same time, it takes a lot of work.
So much work.
Because you have to build, paint the little characters,
I
build
don't
them,
even
and
think it's so much that, just like creating the world
Yeah.
and the storyline, and whoever's your dungeon master, you have to have a good dungeon master. I'm assuming it's going to be a boring game.
right. Like I even seen on one of the local Facebook pages, someone was like, "I'm a dungeon master and I'm looking for like a new group to
That'd be
play
cool.
with." So they were talking about just finding a new group to play with, and that they were a dungeon master, and like a lot of people commented saying that they wanted to join in. So it's pretty cool community, like the whole story behind Dungeon Masters or Dungeons and Dragons. But
This specific story was set back probably when
it
Gary
was
Gygax had made.
1979. So he made it. I think they said, I had to look it up because I don't know what I was talking about. But 1974 is when they
created it.
published Gygax. Published the Dungeons and Dragons. So this was set in 1979. So it had been around for 5 years in the story.
But he was saying towards the end of the series, like, it wasn't as popular as it is today. Like, he was just a lone guy trying to make a cool new game.
Right.
And this story, I don't know how much truth there is to this, but
No, it was all fiction.
yeah. So in the story, the Dungeons and Dragons got even more popular because of what the characters involved themselves in, trying to find this boy who was lost. Supposedly.
Yeah, so William Deere is a private detective, and he gets roped into this, like, he is always waiting on the next big case, and he's like this hotshot James Bond type character, and he always has these, one-liners and some of the best quotes I've heard. And I keep on thinking he's like one of the best characters I've heard in a story, and he's just always looking for the next case. And he finds this one, and the boy is like lost. He's a college student.
He's at Michigan State. He's trying to, supposedly straight-laced kid. His parents don't know what happened. He up and vanished. He's got put on the case to try to find him. Goes into his dorm room, finds clues that leads him spiraling into finding himself basically in a LARP situation.
But as he's doing all this, it's like the dungeon master guy like chimes in and he's like, oh, you opened the door, and what do you see? And there's I don't know, there's something on the wall, and you use your magnifying glass, but you roll the 20-sided dice to see how effective, so it plays in. It's really genius. How they roped it into it.
And again, with the sound effects, you hear like actual dice being rolled, and again, it's very immersive compared to, it's like reading a book, but you get the whole experience, and that's it.
And what did you think about, like, I was just trying to think of the scenes where they where he was actually like in the game, like when he was like in the bottom in those in the steam like where all those pipes were like underground and stuff, where he was trying to find the boy, like, but he was in there fighting a dragon and stuff, like. But it was funny because at the same time he was not really fighting a dragon, but there was like some guys that were like, once he came back to reality, I guess he got so immersed in it because he didn't believe in this stuff at the beginning. He was just like this guy that was just like, oh, he's into this game, and games are stupid because, back then, like, they didn't like, gamers weren't like, there were gamers, but not like there are now. And
like electronics came out, and part of the side story was his son was all into video games and doing this, and the main character you're following is really straight-laced country boy, wants to do
sports. It's all about sports for him. Like, he liked football, and his son wasn't into sports, so he liked chess. And his dad's like, oh, that's just a game. Why are you playing games when you can be watching football with me or something like that? He's just like a manly man, but like back then it was just like different, I guess.
I guess it's just the beginning of the new technology era, I guess. So he was unsure of its potential because it was just new. But I think, like you said about him going down into the pipes, didn't he take some of his drugs he had? Like, I thought he was hallucinating.
Oh, I don't remember that part. He took drugs?
Because the boy said he was experimenting with drugs.
Yeah, I didn't know he took drugs. I don't remember him.
I don't know if he actually took it or if he thought he was taking it. Somewhere when I was comprehending it while folding laundry.
Maybe. I mean, that makes sense because that was the beginning of like him trying to, like, he was like, all right, I'm going to get in the mind of Dallas, which was the kid that was missing. And he's like, I'm a mage and I'm fighting this dragon. And
maybe he just got really into it. But like, I got the sense that he had tried the little drugs that he had on his desk.
Maybe I just didn't pick up on that part. But I mean, that would make sense because he didn't really get fully immersed until like later when it was like towards the end. and like those guys were attacking him and stuff.
That weird hospital. I don't
Oh yeah, it was like an
understand that.
abandoned hospital or something.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so like he ended up in weird places, like playing this game, but like didn't come to until like after it was going on, and it was like the guy. So he'd be fighting like I don't know a skeleton or something, but then like he got so into it, and like the guys were like, "Hey man, we're just playing a game. Hey man," like it would come back to reality.
So
And
he didn't understand. This guy didn't understand LARPing. He didn't understand that they were like fully dressed in these roles, like with this guy who's running around. I can just picture this guy running in the sewer with this robe and staff, and he thinks it's real, and that's why.
I don't think he was even like that. I felt like he was like he had a pistol was one of his, but he like I don't know. I can't really explain it.
No, he was chasing down Dallas in the very last episode and last scene when he was chasing him down that hall sewer or whatever it was. The guy had a robe and the staff, and I'm thinking,
is that the Crowley guy?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that guy was unbelievable. Like that's Crowley guy. It was like Mr. Crowley or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But he was like a guy that owned a local like comic book store / game shop
so
or something.
Was really into it.
Yeah, so he knew Dallas. And he was telling William Deere that he got so immersed in it that he wanted to actually like play Dungeons and Dragons for real. And but this Crowley guy was like a nerdy, like the voice the character, the voice that he played was really funny.
And if anybody's listening to this and can explain to me how the potato lady runs into any of this,
no, it was I was thinking like it was.
I don't understand.
He was looking for Crowley, and he ran into this potato place because I think he thought he went in there or something like that. And the girl's just like, "Oh, welcome to so monotone. Welcome to Potato World. Hey, where we make potatoes. Like, what can I get you?" And I mean, that's the only thing I can think of.
I just felt like it went on unnecessarily long, and I was trying to figure out why.
Yeah.
It was a comedic. It was funny.
Yeah.
So tell me if you like Potato Lady too.
Oh, you like Potato Lady over there?
But there's some good lines, and at the end of it, I think it had a good story. Because as we were talking, like saying, like he just didn't understand this new world of gaming, and why would you want to spend your time gaming when you can go fishing? And his son's been fighting for his attention, like this whole season, their whole episodes. His son that played chess, and he didn't go to his competitions because he was so far on this case. And I think it just comes full circle. Anybody with kids can understand, like, your kid's desire to want your approval or your praise, you're proud of them. And so I think he finally figured out towards the end that it doesn't matter that his son likes to play chess. He just wants to share a game with his dad.
Right.
And so it ends up him bringing Dungeons and Dragons to his son
to show him, like the player's handbook. He brings him and yeah, like there was one part at the end where like the son was like, William Deere's like telling his son that he's proud of him, and he goes, "You're proud of me?" And he's like, that's what he wants, acceptance from his dad. That
even though they could probably be more different.
Yeah. But like he learned all that through this whole series, that you gotta listen to your kid and be there for them,
even though they might not like the same things you do.
Right. Just take time to like listen to them, because that's basically the boy he was trying to find. Dallas turned out to be he was gay, and his parents didn't, like his mom was pushing it off, like no you're not, because this is the 70s, like it was around, but it wasn't like people were coming out like they like now.
It wasn't as easy to be accepted.
Yeah. And so
not that it shouldn't. No.
Right. And yeah, so he was just scared to, like, he basically was just on the run to.
Well, he didn't want to confront his parents and like what William's son. He didn't want to disappoint them, but he also didn't want to hide from who he was anymore. So he thought if he just vanished, then if they really wanted to find him, they would. And
yeah, and then Dallas basically said that Dungeons and Dragons like what saved his life or something. where he could just be himself and play the game. It reminded me of we're big into playing Borderlands, the Borderlands series on Xbox. But there was one that they made. What is it called again?
Tiny Tina's
Epic Adventure. I don't know.
About it. It's been so long.
But basically, she's the dungeon master, and you're playing this game, and she's telling the story as you're playing, and it just reminded me. It's the same concept, but the voice act. I had no idea that what's his name, John Hamm, the guy from Mad Men and a bunch of other movies, but I didn't even put two and two together. I didn't know that was him until you mentioned his name. I mentioned his name. And you're like, oh, that's the Mad Men guy.
Well, I listened to the first episode, and I mean, I liked it. And they say at the end the cast credit names, and I heard his name, and I was like, did they say who I think I heard? And then I went and looked. I was like, they did.
So then I pictured him in my head as William Deere was talking, and I still couldn't put it. I can't see him. I need to see a video of behind the scenes where he's in the voice.
He looks
acting.
In my head how not justified Red Dead Redemption guy would look if you gave him a big old mustache. That's how I pictured him.
Yeah, he was good, and then William Weiner was amazing too. The voice he was doing for the Dungeon Masters. That's why Q Code is I'm telling you right now, you can't mess up just picking one of Q Code's podcasts, because they're all top notch with the actors they bring in there and stuff, and the sound quality and everything. So that's why I keep on going back to picking one of their podcasts. But we have another one in the works that we're going to be listening to.
Are you giving hints?
Yeah, I'll just tell so you guys can. I'll pick it up real fast.
So if you do watch this one, let us know if you liked it. I shouldn't say watch, listen to this one.
This one is the Call of the Flame. So it's on Spotify. I'm sure it's on other platforms, but Call of the Flame is basically another not Dungeons and Dragons, but it's the same type of stuff, magic and
elves and dwarves
and dragons, and we'll keep that theme, and then I'll pick another scary one that you'll have to listen to.
Oh gosh! All right. Well, that's our
yeah. We'll say that for another time.
That's our plan.
Yeah. But leave any comments. Do you guys have any questions or comments for us? Leave them down below. Thanks for watching.
Bye.